already been introduced. That is Troy Silvestri. Here comes Aiden Cox from Black Bear. What a close for Cox and Black Bear in the 4x mile. Just got out-edged by MWTC, but Cox ran so well. Max Hania and now Christopher Sullivan, along with Charlie Ortmans. We're going right to hip 12 with Samuel Burgess. Unattached, Brian DiCola. Hip 14 is Kofi Furjur. Joe Barrett, Sam Jackson, Rakith Prakash. Hip 18, Sam Gola. Hip 19 is Brendan Gomez. And on hip 20, Quinn Parrish. The boys' national record among high school runners in the 5K belongs to a young man from Portland, Oregon, from Central Catholic High School, Galen Rupp. This is one of the oldest records on the books, set back in 2004.
I don't know if there's a stipulation on when this happens. I've just seen this result, so you can speak to that.
All right, the gun goes off, and off we go. Boys National Championship in the New Balance Outdoors in the 5K. Want to mention that Connor Burns and Lex Young, two of the premier high school boy runners across the country, both earlier this year ran 5Ks slightly faster than Galen Rupp, but they did it under different circumstances than Rupp did. And so there are actually 3 records specifically on the books for boys' high school records. But just for the sake of recognizing what Connor and Lex did, because it was so impressive. Connor Burns ran 13:37:30, and Lex Young 13:34:96. Young men from Missouri and from California did that in meets out in California just within the last month or so.
And how crazy is it that it was only a 3-week period from record to record is what I'm seeing on my end. So imagine breaking this record and 3 weeks later somebody else breaks it. Crazy.
You know, records are meant to be broken, right? That's part of the deal. It is
Absolutely.
part of the deal for sure. Well, in the meantime, you got a chance to see all of the guys as they made their way out onto the track. Sam Jackson in bib 16 leading the way. His first 200 went 31.81. And he leads the way at the 600-meter mark, 1:43.23, about half a second in front of Charlie Ortmans. Final boys race in the championship division of the 5K. At least a final race of the day, I guess I should clarify. Ortmans, good push on the outside there. He pulls out into first place. Aiden Ross running right behind him. Quinn Parrish, stride for stride in fourth place. Brendan Gomez hanging tough. Good work there from Sam Burgess and Sam Galla. Kofi is right in the mix too. At the 1,000-meter mark, Ortmans about 2/10 out in front. Ortmans, Ross, Parrish, Jackson, Gomez, and Burgess in front of the pack. And some work to do, some heavy breathing from Silvestri. He's rounding out the back and realizing this group is going a bit faster than he was expecting. Ortmans looks confident, pretty calm, leading the way. How about Brian DiCola? At the 600 mark, DiCola was in 15th place. At the 1,000 mark, he moved to 9th. And by the 1,400 mark, he's moved to first. So DiCola picking a spot to try and make a surge here early. Ortmans right behind him. Looks a little unfazed. Ross and Forger right there too.
Still a pretty tight pack. Everybody is pretty close together still. Nobody is really too far out ahead.
Well, DiCola's lengthened his lead by maybe a couple of strides here the last 200 meters or so. Question is, can Brian keep this pace going? His last 400 was
Slowly.
108.94. He lengthened his lead by a full second and a half. And he continues to pull way out in front of the field, but how sustainable is this early on for Brian DiCola? We're going to find out.
He must have heard me say that the field was still close and we hadn't started to see it breaking into packs yet, because he was like, "Oh, okay, let me start taking some of this lead."
He certainly has put himself in the conversation here early. Brian DiCola. DiCola's lead is now 5 seconds. Over his last 800, he has really opened up on Brendan Gomez. Can Brian DiCola keep this going? I wouldn't expect that at like this point in the race that all of a sudden he would, lose all of his steam. It's still too early for that to happen. The question, though, becomes how likely is it that in that last 1,000 that he won't lose anything?
Exactly. Can he maintain this pace throughout the entire race?
Brian DiCola, 7 seconds in front of Brendan Gomez, Christopher Sullivan, Aiden Ross, Kofi Forger, Sam Burgess. That group of 5 are running tightly together. Adam Furman and Quinn Parrish, along with Rakith Prakash, all look solid, but frankly, it's kind of hard to see where one of those guys is going to emerge from the pack and push DiCola. We're about halfway through, maybe just beyond it here. Well, Brian DiCola must be pretty internally motivated because there's just nobody or nothing else to push him right now other than his occasional glancing at the clock.
I mean, Grant, he is staying in that same pace. 112, 110, 110, 108, 107, 110, 111. He's still maintaining that pace for himself, so.
Pretty darn impressive. Well, we've just gotten some confirmation on the record. The reason why it is written the way it's written on the National High School record books, there's a P for essentially that the record is pending next to the time that Connor Burns and Lex Young ran in breaking Galen Rupp's record. The reason for that simply just because it was a meet that was so recent. They haven't ratified the record officially, but the national 5K record that Galen Rupp ran back in July of 2004 was broken twice this year by Connor Burns and Lex Young. So the fastest that it's ever been run, May 26th, just a couple weeks ago, Lex Young, 13 minutes, 34.96 seconds.
Absolutely insane. And it does take a little while before these records are ratified and secure. So that definitely makes sense. But it's crazy that it was broken 2 times in 1 year when that record was held for a long time. 2004?
2004 was a long time ago. Well, I'd have to do the quick math on it, but there's a chance that both of those 2 young men may not have even been alive when it was broken in 2004. If they were maybe a year or 2 old at most.
I don't know if they were
Brian
because
DiCola.
I was in 4th grade.
Well, most guys that are in high school, right? I mean, you typically, if things go according to plan, you typically turn 18 during your senior year of high school. And if it's a 17, well, I guess 2004 would be a 19-year-old record. It's possible, depending on where they were in high school, that they may have been alive or maybe not. Either way, pretty impressive. Anyways, Brian DiCola at the 3,800 mark continues to run about as steady as you can. His last 4 splits, 110, 111, 111, 110. And that was after he had a 800-meter stretch where he ran 108, 107 back-to-back to really create some distance. Christopher Sullivan is in second place. You just don't see him because he's a mile. Okay, he's 6 seconds behind. He's not actually a mile behind. But he is literally 6.5 seconds in second place. It's DiCola, then Burgess, then Sullivan. Charlie Ortman's currently running 4th. Brendan Gomez hanging around, but Forger and Ross have just stepped ahead of Gomez. Furman and Parrish Pasalugo are behind him. But all eyes right now on this young man, Brian DiCola, who's got 800 meters left.
He's looking good. I mean, the fact that he's maintaining the steady pace the entire time is very impressive.
The national meet record at the New Balance Nationals in the men's mile potentially in jeopardy here. $5K was run by Riley Huff. Actually, I beg your pardon, by Jack Lenningang in 2013 at 14:11:61. This is unbelievable pace.
It's very unbelievable. That's one of the things that I was actually going to mention is the fact that he went 110, 109, 107, and he is closing in. You see he's really digging in with his arms here.
Brian DiCola. He doesn't break a national record, but there was never a doubt who the fastest boys high school 5K young man in the country was. By 3 seconds, Brian DiCola held off Christopher Sullivan's sub-1 minute close. Sullivan ran 8 seconds faster in his final 400. But DiCola still way out front and beats him by a full 3 seconds. Brian DiCola, your 2023 national champion. Sullivan in second, Burgess in third. Charlie Ortmans finishes in fourth. Aiden Ross, Brendan Gomez, Kofi Forger, Adam Furman, Quinn Parrish, Jake Pasalugo round out the top 10. So Brian DiCola gladly